Hello guys and welcome to the channel. Today we will talk about a 2000 horror/thriller movie called Hollow Man. The movie starts with a molecular biologist named Sebastian Cain. He had developed formula that can turn things invisible. Sebastian has been attempting to perfect the formula for the last 4 years, and he conducts his experiments on animals. He was currently working on the project of reversing the invisible effect, that is restoring invisible object back to visible, but he fails. But after many attempts he finally makes the serum that can turn invisible things back to visible. He shares the news with one of his co-worker scientists, and they attempt to test the serum on the gorilla which Sebastian earlier changed to invisible. After many unsuccessful tries they finally manage to tranquilize the invisible gorilla, and then the gorilla is tied to bed. Sebastian then injects the serum that he made to restore the visibility of the object. Although they face problem at first, but gradually the gorilla turn back to visible. Seeing the results all the staffs gets happy. Later it is revealed that he had developed the serum for the military, and was conducting experiments on a lab inside a top-secret hidden military lab accessible only to him and his staff. Scene shift and we see a meeting regarding progress of Sebastian experiment was being held, but Sebastian lies to an oversight committee which includes his mentor, Dr. Howard Kramer, telling them he is close but needs more time, and we see Sebastian gets a warning to hurry up his work, or the military will find a replacement. After the meeting, Sebastian's friend named Linda and Matt ask him about why did he lie to the committee, to which Sebastian replies that he want his serum to be tested on a human being. Later, he again lies to his team member that Dr. Howard Kramer and the board had given him permission to test the serum on a human being, and manages to convince them. Later they conduct the test with subject being Sebastian himself. Despite a painful shift to transparency, the procedure is successful. After being unconscious for about 17 hours, Sebastian wakes up in pain, and recoiling from the ambient light. Realizing that he can see through his eyelids, Sebastian finds difficult to endure the light, so he tells his staff to turn off the light. He then conducts some clinical tests on himself, and we see the test result were normal. The female members of the group were feeling uneasy because they were sensing Sebastian was around them. He enjoys sneaking around the lab in order to scare and play pranks on his fellow co-workers, one of which involves molesting Sarah. 3 days had passed and now it was the time for Sebastian to return to visibility. They then inject the serum which would turn him visible, but Sebastian feels intense pain, and it almost kills him. The reversion also fails. The researchers construct a latex mask for the Sebastian to wear around the lab, resembling like a human. Sebastian is then quarantined, but as the days pass he is unable to cope with the isolation, and one day he finally decides to sneak out, disobeying Carter and his own rules. He sneaks out and goes to his apartment to grab some books, CDs, but at his apartment he notices a neighbor girl undressed taking shower. He knocks on her door. Being invisible he enters her apartments, without her having a clue. Taking advantage of his invisibility he sexually assaults her. Scene shifts and we see Linda shows up at Sebastian's apartment. She finds Sebastian's mask lying at his apartment. On seeing that, Linda gets frightened and tells about this to the team. She tells the team that Sebastian is a threat and can be dangerous, but suddenly Sebastian enters the lab. Linda warns him that if he leaves again, she and Matt will tell Dr. Kramer what they did. He agrees to obey, but they were still not trusting Sebastian because of his actions. The lab had a thermal camera that can tell Sebastian's position. Sebastian knew that he is being watched, due to which he cannot leave the lab, but Sebastian assembles a device that runs a video loop of his heat signature in his quarters. The repeating image fools his colleagues into believing that Sebastian is still in the lab. He goes out and spies on Linda, but he finds Matt in her house, and comes to know that Linda and Matt are in relationship, due to which he feels angered, because he liked Linda. Before leaving the place he break the window glass by throwing a stone. Matt and Linda checks outside to find no one. Linda suspect that it may be Sebastian, so she calls the laboratory to check Sebastian. Frank checks the surveillance system and informs Linda that Sebastian is here in the lab, but in reality it was a looped video of Sebastian. Meanwhile, an enraged Sebastian returns to the lab, frustrated and angered at the thought of Linda and Matt together. Unable to stand the annoying barking of an invisible dog, Sebastian approaches the dog, reassuring it that he means it no harm, then kills it with his bare hands by brutally smashing it against the cage wall. Next day Sarah finds the dog dead. Sarah asks Sebastian if whether he killed the dog, to which Sebastian says no. Later they check the video footage but can't seem to find it. Scene shift to night. Linda feels Sebastian's presence at her house. Linda then visits the laboratory to check on Sebastian. She discovers that they have been watching a recording and that Sebastian has been leaving without their knowledge. Linda and Matt go to Dr. Kramer's house and tell them about the experiment on Sebastian. On hearing that, Dr. Kramer gets angry at them for hiding the whole experiment and later tells them to resign. Dr. Kramer then attempts to call the military and inform them about Sebastian, but we see Sebastian had followed Linda and Matt to Dr. Kramer's house. Sebastian then tricks Dr. Kramer to leave the house. He then cuts the phone connection and then kills him by drowning in the pool. Scene shift to next day and we see Linda and Matt were waiting for Dr. Kramer's call, but after not getting any call, Linda calls at Dr. Kramer's house only to find out that he died. Linda and Matt then takes the elevator to inform the security, but they find that Sebastian had disabled all the member elevator codes except his own. Sebastian had also disabled all the phones. The team decides to kill Sebastian before he kills them. Sebastian then removes his clothing and latex mask and begins to hunt them all down. Janice falls behind while the team searches for Sebastian and he strangles her with an foreline and stuffs her body in a locker. Linda and the others hide in the lab, while Matt and Carter take tranquilizer guns to hunt for Sebastian using thermal imaging goggles. Sebastian mortally wounds Carter before getting into a fight with Matt. Matt shoots at a heat signature from a steam vent which partially reveals Sebastian's position. Matt tries to shoot him, but Sebastian throws Carter down toward a steel bar, which cuts his carotid artery, causing massive blood loss. Sarah then goes to arrange blood for injured Carter, but she sends Sebastian nearby. To reveal Sebastian, she splashes blood all over the room. However, Sebastian tackles her and shoots her with her tranquilizer dart, then breaks her neck to kill her, and Carter also bleeds to death. Matt, Linda and Frank then goes on to check Sarah and they find Sarah dead in the walk-in freezer. Frank sprays a fire extinguisher to expose Sebastian, but Sebastian comes from behind and impales Frank with a crowbar. He then stabs Matt, and then proceeds to lock them both in the freezer and turns temperature all the way down to freeze them to death, and then leaves. Linda tries to break the door, but fails. Scene shift to Sebastian. We see him dressed up and making a bomb that will destroy the facility and cover up the murder of the team. He destroys the keyboard so that nobody can stop the machine. Meanwhile, Linda constructs an electromagnet lab equipment and uses it to open the door. She light a fire to warm Matt, and then assemble the material for flamethrower. She senses Sebastian's presence. Just as Sebastian enters the elevator, Linda fires the flamethrower at him, his latex mask and clothes burning away. Sebastian barely manages to escape the flames. Sebastian disappears again. To reveal him, Linda uses the flamethrower to start the ceiling sprinklers, which partially reveals him. Sebastian then attacks Linda, Keeping his foot on her neck, he tries to choke her. But suddenly Matt appears and hits Sebastian with the crowbar. Just as they were about to leave, Sebastian recovers. He swings the crowbar, but Matt deflects the blow, throwing Sebastian into the fuse box. Electrocuting himself, Linda and Matt find the bomb, but realize that they cannot stop it from exploding. They decide to leave the premises, but as Sebastian had disabled the elevator, they attempt to climb a ladder in the elevator shaft to escape as the bomb explodes. Despite Sebastian's injury, he grabs Linda's ankle, he pulls her off the ladder and onto the top of the elevator and kisses her, but Linda disconnects the elevator cables, causing Sebastian to fall to his death down the shaft. At the ending, Matt and Linda manages to escape the burning lab, and outside emergency personnel take them away in an ambulance. Thank you for watching.
お前はもう